Hello, this is Coach Rosie Maslove saying hello to you today, and I wanted to slow it down. Take a breath. All right, so what I want to talk about today is the expression life is worth living. So, this is one of the tenets of my work as a coach. One of the things that I try to be in this world is a person who has created that life is worth living. It is part of my I am statement. It is part of my stand in the world. So what does that mean? I am that life is worth living. I am that life is worth living. So in my presence, life is worth living. Now, I can only be that in the world if my life is worth living, for it to have integrity, for it to have energy, for it to have power. And what I have found is that as I cultivate life is worth living in my presence, in my expansion of who I am, when people come around me, any thoughts they have that is the opposite of that, life isn't worth living. I want to die. Something is wrong with me. Those kind of things. I want to end this life. Suicidal thoughts will dissolve. Because in my presence, life is worth living. If that is true, if I can create that, if my presence is that life is worth living, then anyone in my presence will not be able to think those thoughts. It will not come through them. Like I said, those thoughts will dissolve. So because of that, I really enjoy working with people that have wanted to commit suicide or tried or are feeling hopeless. And so if we look at the choice that life is worth living, the statement life is worth living, we can create into that. We can breathe life into that. Right? It's like we breathe life into that. Okay. So first thing would be asking yourself the question, what kind of life for me is worth living? And you can use that as a guide. You know, if someone is asking you to do something and it doesn't resonate with the life that is worth living, don't do that. And if you're not sure, I think a lot of people are sure. They just don't want to express what they really feel and want. They're afraid. But see, we only have one life. We only have one life as far as I know. There could be, I do believe in afterlives and I do believe in reincarnation, I would say. But right now, I know that I have this life because I have it. That's self-evident. It's my reality. So if I only have this life, then wouldn't it make sense to make this life worth living? Life is worth living inherently. It's just that we add on to it reasons why it's not. So if we let go of the reasons why it's not, which is just thought, our minds are storytelling minds. They're storytelling. They like to make up stuff. They like to have something to chew on. So if I'm feeling really good, it might throw in a thought about, oh, well, how long is this going to last? You ever had that one? How long is this going to last, this good stuff? So life is inherently worth living. It's just that when we put all these other thoughts on top of that, it's like our light dims. And then we wonder, is life worth living? And then we entertain that. And it just causes other thoughts over here. And it's like a web of thoughts around that. Whereas if I stand in, life is worth living. I'm creating a life worth living. Life is worth living, no matter what I do. How do I know that? Because I'm here. I don't believe life is as complicated as we make it. I don't have to prove that life is worth living. If I am living, it's worth living because I'm living it. By doing it, by breathing, by being present, by walking around, I'm living a life worth living. It is worth living because I'm doing it. I don't need to prove it to anyone. But what I like about coming from that stand is that it gives me power to make decisions, because I can see clearly sometimes how if I say yes to something, that would not create a life worth living for me. And that also changes, right? Sometimes we have big feelings about what might work in our life or what might not work, and we could be wrong. We have to try things on to see what really happens. What really happens when we try that thing. So don't be afraid to try things if you think, well, if I did that, it wouldn't make life worth living. Maybe, maybe not. What if we're so open that anything that comes into us, into our living, we can create it into life worth living. We can transform it into something beautiful that confirms that life is worth living. And if that's possible, then we don't have to be afraid. We do not have to be afraid. If life really is worth living, then every piece of it is worth experiencing. Every up and every down, every middle, every emotion, every distraction, every doubt, everything is part of it, and it's all okay. And nothing distracts from life is worth living. It's always worth living. We feel like celebrating more sometimes, but that doesn't mean in the low moments it's not worth living. In the low moments, we're just slowing down to sense what could be off. What maybe I could change. We can listen to our voice in the low moments. We can also understand that low moods have low mood thinking, which sometimes aren't the best thoughts. We don't have to follow those thoughts. But sometimes in the low mood, there's a lot of meat. There's a lot of gusto there. Thomas More, the author, I think he said something like, the soul in melancholy will say things that it wouldn't say when it's happy. So you don't have to be afraid even of what happens in the lowest moods, especially knowing that the low mood will dissolve and become a high mood. That's just life. And then we're going to go in a low mood and then a high mood. That's just life. That's the human experience. We all have that. We go in and out of that all day long. So we don't have to be afraid. I'm not afraid when I get on the roller coaster. I know that it's going to have an up, then it's going to go down, then it's going to come up, and I'm going to be fine. And I can enjoy the moments when I'm like, woo, at the top. And I can enjoy the moments when I'm deep down too, and like, this is interesting. Here it comes again, and I go up, woo. I think we can enjoy life. And when we step into I'm enjoying, no matter what the emotion is, no matter what the circumstance is, then I can be that I am, that life is worth living. Listen, I am that life is worth living. Join me.